You push through a gap in the outer fence where someone bent back the wire 3 nights ago, and you're already running before your feet hit the grass on the other side. 14 years inside Carver Hill Correctional for a string of armed robberies you mostly planned and partly regretted. Not exactly the kind of record that makes the parole board feel generous. You stopped expecting generosity around year 4. The fence is the first way. It's also the dumbest. Everyone thinks about the fence. The guards think about the fence. There are cameras on the fence, motion sensors along the lower run, and a patrol vehicle that sweeps the outer perimeter every 22 minutes. You've watched the gap for 6 days. The camera above it stopped panning 2 weeks ago. Something in the motor. Maintenance put in a ticket. You found that out from a kitchen worker who overheard a radio call. Small information, the kind that matters. The second way is the laundry truck. It leaves Carver Hill every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 a.m., loaded with linen bags and driven by a civilian contractor who doesn't work for the facility and barely looks at the dock crew. You've watched 3 men try to ride out in the bags over the years. 2 were found before the truck cleared the gate. 1 made it to the depot and was picked up 40 minutes later by a K9 unit. The smell. The dogs always find the smell. The third way is paperwork. A clerical error, a misplaced release order, a name that looks like another name. It happens more than people think. A man 2 wings over walked out on a Thursday morning in the wrong uniform because his file got crossed with a short-timers who shared his last name. He made it 11 days before someone ran his prints at a traffic stop. He came back with 7 years added. The paperwork way isn't really an escape. It's a loan with a very high interest rate. The fourth way is the visiting room. You get close to someone on the outside. They bring in something small, something that fits in a mouth or a hem. Tools take weeks to accumulate. Wire, a filed piece of metal, a key impression pressed in soap and cast in resin. The visiting room is watched, but watching is not the same as seeing. The fifth way is a variation of the fourth. You don't use the visitor. You use the lawyer. Attorney visits happen in a different room, less monitored, longer duration. You've seen men come back from legal visits with things pressed into their palms they shouldn't have. The sixth way is the medical transfer. You get sick, or you perform sick convincingly enough to get moved to an outside hospital. Once you're in transit, you're in a different situation, a vehicle instead of a building, a road instead of a perimeter. The window is small, and the restraints are real, and the officer in the back of the transport van is usually bored but not stupid. You know one man who made it out of a hospital bathroom through a ground floor window. He was recaptured in the parking structure across the street, still in a hospital gown, IV line still taped to his arm. You don't laugh at that. You think about it practically. He needed shoes, that's all. Just shoes. The seventh way is the work crew. Minimum security facilities send men outside the walls to do road clearance, maintenance, conservation work. Carver Hill doesn't offer that, which tells you something about how the administration sees the general population. But the crews exist elsewhere. The window there is longer and the terrain is open. The problem is, you have to be trusted enough to be assigned to the crew, and getting trusted enough takes years of exactly the kind of behavior that makes escaping feel less urgent. The eighth way is fire. You don't start it. Someone else does, or it starts on its own, which happens more than the facility would like to admit. The wiring in C block is 30 years old, and the maintenance budget hasn't kept up. In a real fire, the count breaks down. Doors that should open do. Doors that should stay closed sometimes don't. You've thought about this. Most people inside have thought about this. You think about it the way you think about winning money. Something that could happen probably won't, and you shouldn't structure your life around it. The ninth way is the tunnel. It takes months. The right cell, the right tool, the right concealment, someone willing to move the dirt. You've seen tunnels referenced in old incident reports that someone left in a stack near the admin photocopier. They always fail in the same place, not discovery, orientation. You tunnel 3 feet in the wrong direction, and you've bought yourself more time in a hole that goes nowhere. The 10th way is a variation. You don't tunnel out, you tunnel to a different part of the facility. Access to a utility corridor, a maintenance hatch, a door that opens to something the guard stopped checking because it was checked for 10 years, and nothing was ever there. The 11th way is the uniform. A guard's uniform. Close enough. The shirt, the trousers, the belt, the radio, if you can get one. The radio is the hard part. The uniform you can construct from pieces acquired over months. The walk is the easier part than people think. A man in a uniform moving with purpose is not a man anyone looks at twice. Until someone looks once. The 12th way is someone on the inside of the staff, not romantic, not dramatic. Just a person who needs money badly enough. It happens. You've known it to happen. The transaction is always simpler than the movies make it look. A gate left on a delay, a log entry that doesn't get made, a radio call that goes unanswered for 4 minutes. You think about what it would take to find that person and make that arrangement. The math doesn't work for you. Too many variables you can't see from inside. The 13th way is the roof. There's a section of the recreation yard where the wall height drops where it meets the older building, 19 feet instead of 23. You've measured it by counting block layers. Someone with the right help, the right distraction, the right night could theoretically reach that section and go over. The razor wire at the top is the obvious problem. The less obvious problem is the 19-foot drop on the other side onto a concrete service road. You've thought about the drop a long time. You're past the fence now, moving through low scrub, heading for the tree line 200 yards out. The 14th way is what you're doing right now, which is just running. No plan beyond the wire, no car waiting, no contact on the outside with a bag packed. This is the way that almost no one survives longer than 48 hours. You know the statistics. You know that 3 out of every 4 recaptures happen within the first day, and that the remaining ones are mostly found within the week. You know the dogs are already coming. You can hear something behind you. A sound like someone keying a radio. You keep running anyway, through the dark, through the wet grass, toward the trees that are farther away than they looked from the yard. You thought about this for years. You planned parts of it and left other parts unplanned, because the planning felt like the most useful thing and the running felt like something that would figure itself out. It doesn't figure itself out. That's the 15th way and everything after. The ways that live only in your head, clean and logical and complete, right up until the moment you're actually in them. The tree line isn't getting closer fast enough.